I would like to introduce our next session on the topic. The era of creative storytelling has never been more exciting. So, we have had 100 digital originals produced in 2021 with writers, directors, and producers creating stories like never before. The next session will unravel the possibilities for the content on OTT. So, we will be joined by the foremost creative minds working in the OTT industry, including Ms. Ashima Avasthi Chaudhuri, Head of Content, Z Studios. Can we put our hands together for the beautiful lady? Can we please welcome her on stage? Then we have Mr. Deepak Segal, Head of Content, Applause Entertainment. Please welcome, sir. Along with them, we have renowned film director, writer, and producer, Mr. Hansal Mehta. Can we have you on stage, please, sir? Ms. Mrinalini Jain, Executive Vice President, Business and Content from Banijay Asia. Please welcome. You're looking gorgeous in blue. Ms. Rucha Pathak, producer, Excel Entertainment. Please welcome Rucha. And we have director, writer, and producer, Mr. Suresh Triveni with us right now. Please welcome Suresh. You can all have your respective seats, please. And this session is chaired by Mr. Raj Nayak, who is the founder and chief executive officer, House of Cheer. Please welcome, sir. So I welcome all the panelists, and over to you, Mr. Raj.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much. I have a very respected and eclectic panel with me, and I'm honored to be here with them. The topic, I think, what you just mentioned was, it hasn't been more exciting before when it comes to storytelling. Before I start questioning or asking my questions to the panel, I want to know from you, what do you want to hear today? You got this amazing people here. So what is it that you want to listen from them today? Can somebody take the mic there? Yeah.
हेलो सर, माय नेम इज़ विजय अकेला. मेरा जो कंसर्न है सर असल वो ये है कि जो कंटेंट मैं जमा करता हूँ वो चोरी ना हो जाए, क्योंकि हम यहाँ पे पिछले 2 दिनों से आज भी इंक्लूडेड टुडे वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट कंटेंट्स एंड कंटेंट्स. और डर इस बात का है कि हमारा कंटेंट जिस ऑफिस में हम सबमिट करते हैं वहाँ पे चोरी हो के उसका डिज़ाइन थोड़ा बदल के ना आ जाए. तो ये हमारा सबसे बड़ा कंसर्न है.
ठीक है, पूछेंगे हम. दूसरा.
My name is Deepak Shinde. I'm a writer. Sir, my question...
No, don't ask the question. I want to know what you want to hear from them today.
How to pitch the idea to director, and how to know what will the director or producer like. Okay. What is the industry norms for good content?
Understood.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Basically, which are the stories that matter today? What are the houses looking for, and what is the audience looking for? What kind of story should we write? Okay. Basically, the genre that matters today.
Good.
I am Hitendra Parmar. I want to know particularly what kind of advice you great people are giving to the emerging writers. That is very important to me. Thank you so much.
Any more, or we should? Okay. There are 2 more I can see. Yeah.
I want to hear the good news that when the good content would be coming from their OTT platforms?
Very interesting question. We will address that as well. Anil will be very happy to listen to this question.
Hi, morning. My name is Geetika. I'm a writer and actor. I want to know, sir, that when we pitch a story to one studio, and we know there are processes, obviously people are going through this, and I want to trust that they said we'll come back to you. How long should we wait to pitch it to someone else? Or can we just go together to more than one? I can
Great.
see her
We'll
smiling.
take one question and then there's one hand there. We'll just take one question and then we'll continue.
I just want to know the top 3 tips of storytelling or nuances or common sense which you had acquired over your experience from each one of them.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rupali. I'm an actor. I wanted to ask, is there a constant pressure for you all to keep looking for diverse content in today's age? And how does having new, more exciting content help an actor? And are there any disadvantages as such for an actor?
Okay, great. I mean, I've got a fair idea of what this room wants to hear, and the purpose of me asking this question is because this session is for you. So it's better to get your inputs and make it more interactive, and that's the way I wanted to start it. And everybody here on this panel is qualified to answer almost all those questions, so that makes it easier. But I'm going to ask my own question before I start, right? You've all been in the industry for a long time, and you've seen that the way it's evolved. The gentleman before just mentioned that one of the reasons the subscription of Netflix has gone down is because of not enough original content being produced in 2021 or 2020. I mean, I don't remember the year, right? Yeah. Do you think that's the real reason?
I don't think so. I think the fact that there are so many other more OTT platforms here, and because there's such a diverse availability of content on other platforms, that Netflix is probably getting a run for its money. So I don't think it's because number of originals have fallen. I think
So
there's just
according
more
to you, it's more
competition.
fragmentation and competition that's come into play, right? Anybody has any other view?
Hello. I think that original content does play a big role in making a platform worthy of being in that market, because you reach out with stories that are like Scam that we did with in Applause wouldn't have made much sense to a African audience or a Korean audience. But for us, it became very pertinent because everybody knew that subject, but nobody knew what happened.
True.
So that is original content, which is rooted in a certain place. But content like a murder mystery is universal. The courtroom dramas can also be very pertinent to, like criminal justice that we made adapted. Actually, it's more of a social issue rather than voyeuristic thriller. So I think local content has a specific place to break a market and make your base stronger there.
I'm not going to dwell too much on the past presentation, but one more question from there since I got to watch it. Why do you think, I was seeing India's contribution. It was very minuscule. What do you think? Why do you think we haven't been able to export our content internationally the way it should be? Yeah. Where are we lacking, or what do you think is the reason?
I don't think we're lacking. Okay, I think there is enough scope. It's a pretty new industry, let's be honest, and let's accept it. Even television took that long to grow. It fell, it stood up, it fell, it stood up, and that's what's going to happen on OTT also. This is something we've all as makers been asked, is that why does our content not travel out, etc.? Or when will we begin making content that is going to become global or travel? I think the key, and this is my opinion, is that stories have to stay authentic to where they are. Okay? Stories have to be localized. You have to stay honest to where you belong. What travels is actually the emotion. So the emotion needs to be universal. It's not the story. Do I need to make a story where everybody's speaking English to make it global? No, I don't. Do I need to make it look like it is set in an international setting? No, I don't. As long as the emotion, whether it is a father-daughter story set here, or it's a father-daughter story set in a small town in Africa, or whether it is a father-daughter story in Europe, it's the emotion that is universal. As long as we stay honest and we tell a true story completely localized to the heart and stay honest to our characters, it's going to travel. So it will happen. We just have to let go of trying to be global and do what we're meant to do.
Yeah.
No, I think I really agree with you, Ashima. I think to begin with, I still feel that we have a few years to go till we capture and understand exactly what our audience wants. You know, I feel we're still learning. Like 4 years ago when we started Banijay, there were all these rules we were following. You know, Hotstar wants this, Netflix wants this, Amazon wants this. And while we were in the process of this, I was like, this is all wrong. You know, all the rules we're following, they're not working. You know, so I think we need to start focusing on this story works, this character works, and as opposed to thinking that this, you know, I need to find a home for this story and this would be the home for this story. I think it's important to develop it to an extent where I feel, okay, this is the story I want to tell. And then put on the lens and be like, does this work for the local audience? Does this work for the global audience? So I think we'll get there, but there's a lot of learning, a lot of development and effort that we need to put in. You know, our development timelines for everything is like, let's do it now, let's do it now. You know, we don't think and stop and be like, okay, you know, I think I need to give a couple of more weeks to this character. It's not working. So I think we'll get there, but there's still some time.
Yeah. Deepak, you want to
I
say something?
think globalization, Hollywood has shown the world how to globalize cinema. They have the advantage of being English speaking, and a lot of the world is English speaking. Hollywood studios have had theaters in India. I mean, Metro in Dhobi Talao is MGM ka theater. New Empire was Paramount. These were set up. So their global vision of cinema as a business, Indian vision of cinema as a business is thanks to diaspora. They started watching Indian films, of, you know, descendants of Indians started. It is not that Indian films, Hollywood films are dubbed in German for the German market. So as a business, they took it to a global scale. We are organically letting it happen. There's no vision to make Indian cinema global at any level. The way Hollywood has, you know.
Okay, so we moved from Hollywood, come back to Mumbai. So Hansal, okay. Okay, no, you wanted to say something. Okay, my next question was to you, right? I mean, you produced some of the finest movies in this country. And then you dabbled and produced one of the biggest hits on OTT as well. What is the change that you saw? What's the difference? When you evolved from cinema to OTT, what was the difference? What was the major difference?
So, answering both the questions, I think one of the key factors in telling stories, you know, Scam worked for the audiences, worked for all of us. One of the key reasons was the time that we spent, the importance we gave to writing, to developing the characters, to actually nurturing the show without really thinking about the end result. Where will the show be seen? Are we making it for Netflix, which has a global audience? Are we making it for an Amazon Prime? Those thoughts were not there. It was sold after its cuts were made, and it was picked up by a platform that nobody knew. You know,
Definitely helped the platform
yeah.
drive its
So
penetration.
what it proved was that, you know, I think content is greater than the platform. You know, good content will find its audience, but we have to invest in that content. We have to invest in the creative process before you know, we jump on the end result too early. And that's what has happened to our films. You know, before I make a film, there's this calculation of the Friday. You know, so the weekend decides on what you will make, who you will cast. You know, so moment you break some of those barriers, I think it is important to break the barriers that we have created for ourselves in making these stories, in breaking those boundaries that we have created. You see, we are unfortunately bound by certain rules that have always been broken when there's been a breakthrough. But uh, we don't recognize the signals easily enough. You know, so I make a scam, and then everybody comes to me with a scam that you make something on Ketan Parekh. So just because Harshad Mehta worked doesn't mean Ketan Parekh's story is going to work.
Get stereotyped into that.
Yeah, so we need to keep breaking those norms. We need to keep trying to tell newer stories, and we need to nurture them with the conviction and passion that went into that show.
Okay. I'm just leading up from the same thing. You just mentioned that, you know, content is greater than the platform. And some of you here produce shows for the platforms. How much pushback is there from the platform? Do they recognize this fact that content is greater than the platform? Or do they feel, thanks to our platform, your content is seeing the light of the day?
I think yes, there is still, like I said, because we're in such nascent stage of growing, the platforms also are taking a little time to get the guts, as I would say, to sometimes bite into something that may not be a safe zone from their perspective, right? Taking from this, would scam, would a platform have, and I honestly think that if scam had gone with, at that point, Prateek was not a star, there were no big stars, etc. It was a story that people are aware of. They don't know the depth of the story, but they know about it. Maybe if it had gone directly to a platform, it may not have been what it was, in all honesty, right? Because what this helped the makers do is do it honestly. You know, so for even for Z, those are some of the ways that we're doing, right? I mean, we're doing it for some of the films. The point which we all need to accept, and taking from your this thing, is the boundary what has happened to us is because all this while we were dictated by, on film, a Friday result, and on television, a Thursday result or a weekly result. What we need to accept is that OTT is the most brilliant platform because the audiences will find the story at some point in time. They will find it. So the brilliance of that medium is that it is there to stay. You don't have someone, so the patience has to be there. You stay true to the story and just be patient. It will find its audience. And that's what we need to make use of as makers, as platforms, etc., to understand that this is the brilliance of this platform, which should help us go wide.
Rucha, you want to add something to this?
No, I was keenly listening to what platforms were looking for. So it's great to hear that everybody's asking for patience to be able to gauge whether something is working or not working. I think that's like a really important thing for a creator to hear or for a producer to hear, and that it's not subscriptions or numbers and things like that are driving actually content telling on platforms. I don't know if they are. Are they?
I just want to add on to what I think I didn't do a show, but I've experienced one theatrical and the second one was on a OTT. Jalsa was on OTT, and I realized that, and for survival, I do advertising. So advertising is client needs. Okay, feature film when I did, it had certain songs and all of that which I had to put. My experience of releasing a film on OTT has been that I agree with Ashima. We produced the film first, then it got acquired. The freedom that you get, and I'm saying the good or bad, it's purely a filmmaker's onus. Okay, so I personally feel that, again, I think the question is also about whether commissioned works or acquired work. Both I think have different experiences.
Yeah, and the pros and cons to both, to be honest. I mean, it's you go to a platform, they definitely, from whatever experience they have, know the audience, and they may be in the correct place to say this is what will work for our audience, but that may not work for your story, right? So I think it has to be a balance. If you think that works for your story, then please go ahead and make commissioned work, because then it works for both of you. But if that takes away from the story, then maybe you still need to be honest to your story.
Okay, so great. I mean, all of you have been again part of this industry for a long time. How have you seen storytelling evolve over a period of time? Because the topic is there hasn't been a more exciting time, right? Have you seen major changes? What are the things that you've seen, and how have you seen it evolve over a period of time? What are the changes?
I think by the time we realized the 3-act structure, then we had songs. So then the 3-act was not working. By the time we removed the song, shows happened. So now we're still trying to figure out what really goes in terms of a narrative. But what is interesting is, I guess, in terms of storytelling is, somewhere as storytellers and writers, we know that lazy writing is not going to work. And there has been a resurgent post I think the 70s and 80s, when the writers were the stars, when Salim Javed Saab were there. I think at least the conversations are wrought about writing these days, which is fantastic, which I feel is a good progression that's happening.
I think I agree with you, Suresh. There's one big change I've noticed recently is that writers are becoming more and more fearless. And they're okay to be honest with the flaws of the character. And I think that's very important. We do all sorts of shows, some which you do because, there's a certain structure that works. And some are scripts you sort of take a punt on. Your heart says you have to say the story and you feel like, oh my God, this is not going to sell. But when I see this writer's conviction saying, no, let me write this, and I think it can work. And these are writers who are still finding their voices. They're the newer voices. They're not people who have a lot of work behind them. That gives me a lot of confidence. I'm like, okay, maybe I should take this punt on them. Maybe they're going to come up with something which is going to be phenomenal. And I have been in situations where 2 shows that we are writing, I don't know if they're going to sell or not, but I'm very happy with them because there's just a sort of fearlessness to the story writing. And there's a lot of honesty to the story writing. They're not trying to fit a stereotypical character. They're not trying to say, okay, the character starts here and this is how the character is going to redeem itself. We all don't redeem ourselves by the end of our story. There has to be space for being flawed, space for, being judged, because that's the society we live in. So I think that fearlessness is the best form of evolution in OTT storytelling that I've seen in the past couple of years.
I think the basic change has been the format. There's the 2.5-hour movie. There's the continuous daily soap. What has emerged today is something in between, which is a limited number of episodes. And the biggest thing that has changed is the convenience of viewing. That I can watch it whenever I want. I can go back, I can go forward. My wife can watch it at a different time. I can watch it at a different time. And the sheer volume of variety available at the press of a button. When DVD came, we thought, oh, at least I can watch it whenever I want. But now there is a overload of, you have to literally see about, and I think word of mouth is the best publicity that actually happens. You cannot troll a EPG and get the information.
So, from my own experience, like I started making films in the late 90s. And I was sort of engulfed with the fear, okay, if I make this will work. If I have these people in the film, composers, music companies, actors, then it will work. We were seeing things from a different lens. The moment I broke those barriers, the moment I got fearless with what I wanted to say, I said, I will make the story, I will tell the stories I want to tell. Now, the challenge is telling those stories you want to tell and finding a way to tell them. You see, what has happened is, again, from personal experience, since I made Shahid in 2011, 12, we found a way to make that film. There was no way the film could have been made if I had adhered to the studio system at that time. They wanted stars. They did not believe that the film could find an audience, that it would earn them money. And they might have been justified in doing so. So we found a way to make the film. that I said, okay, if I have to tell the story, the fire to tell a story, I think somewhere has increased. I have seen it among my own colleagues. In the last 10, 12 years, they've become more fearless in experimenting, in trying new things and finding a way to tell those stories. If Shahid had to be made, it had to be made in that budget. It was made in 75 lakhs. So we found a way to tell that story. So all the stories that we have told, we found a way to tell them. Even Scam. I mean, people believe that it had an unlimited budget. It did not. Deepak never gave us that money. and, but it's much more than money. It is the filmmakers, the creators, how they harness that vision and with what passion they have to tell that story. You have to find a way to tell it. You see, and that is the key to storytelling today. That you want to tell a story, find a way to tell it. Don't sit around complaining that I'm not able to, I've got such great stories, but wo ban nahi rahi hai. There is a way today. The OTT, for example, has opened up the playground. The onus is on us as creators to be able to tell those stories within the parameters that are available to us.
I think that completely agree. And what you said is, has it evolved? To be honest, one step back, we were very evolved at one point, right? Just before the session, you mentioned Tamas. Brilliant, right? We made that like what, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, right? There came a point, I think, where the fear set in, right? Like you said. Now is really the time that we have to, as an entire industry, digital industry, and I say that for us, makers, producers, platforms, everybody involved, take on what you're saying, Hansal, the responsibility of telling stories, right? Because there can't be a better time where you are in a place where your medium allows the audience to find its story, right? I mean, I'm saying this as a studio, we just, while we do series, we just announced a film called Joram, which is the Naxal Bari, right? Now, would we have done that a couple of years ago with the theatrical thing looming, Are Naxal Bari ka story, who's going to watch, etc., right? But no. Today we have the confidence that this will find its audience. And as a maker, we need to tell stories that haven't pushed the boundaries before. So that is something that we really need to take the responsibility for as an entire industry.
So tell me, I mean, there is this feeling, and we got discussing, that there isn't enough variety coming out. Is it the problem with the people creating content, or is it the problem of platform wanting a particular type of content?
I think it's a trap. It's a trap that we create for ourselves. The system.
Because you said people come back to you with stories like Scam.
See, it's lazy. You see, we look at something that has succeeded and we are quickly looking for a formula. Okay, this works. So, my next buck is going to be made easily. But there's never a easy buck to make in this business, because until you try something new, until you break more barriers, you're not going to be able to make that. I mean, if I'm going to repeat what we did with Scam over and over again, it's going to fail. It's going to fail. The challenge is how will we do it with the same honesty, with the same integrity, with the same belief and the same passion that we did that. That is the only thing you can replicate. Don't replicate ideas. Don't replicate stories. Replicate your passion. Try to keep that alive. Keep that fire burning and not try to follow a formula. We have failed. Our films have failed because of the formula. Our films have failed because our stars became bigger than the stories. We have to make our stories bigger than our stars. And the day we keep doing that, we have to keep doing that. I mean, I'm not saying it's not happening. We have to do it more often. We have to do it more often, and it's the entire ecosystem has to work to make it happen. It cannot be one maker who struggles to make it. It cannot be one producer who struggles to make it. It cannot be a writer who struggles to make it. The entire ecosystem has to work towards that. I mean, we need to understand what we are doing.
I also agree with him, but I just also, one more thing which I very strongly feel in terms of variety when you're talking about. I think entertainment, especially the movie making and in shows and all, always follow the business of trends. And that's exactly which has been happening, whether it's sports movies or superheroes or whatever. Personally, in India, what I feel is, I think the lack of appreciation of literature existing and old. We are not reading, we are not going vernac in terms of finding stories. So what is happening is we are all in this echo chamber called in Bombay, in Mumbai, I'm talking over here. And after a point, your experiences are dying and you're constantly busy churning. So I feel that our variety will come through our literature. And if that needs to be, I genuinely feel needs to be explored.
Yeah, I think that someone had used the term Hindi hegemony, you know, which is looming all the while. So when we say a global story, something that travels within our countries also. I mean, we do so much of Tamil remakes, right? I mean, RRR, KGF, these are all great proofs to say that, again, stories have to be authentic to what they're doing, right? As long as I keep coming back to this, is the emotion is universal, it'll work. That's what.
Rucha, you've been very quiet.
Yeah, no, so I used to be on the other side. I used to be on the studio side, and I know that even on the studio side, we had to constantly be fighting for creating the kind of films that we wanted to make. So, you know, like there was the Spot Boy brand once upon a time that was that was created to make out of the box content, or to create films that were more dependent on the script and not dependent on the stars, as Hansal was talking about. But I think that the market after that changed quite a bit, because then everybody was trying to make films that were out of the box, and everybody was realizing that the script is really important. And you had like a kind of a merging of, you know, say so-called commercial cinema and non-commercial cinema. I think the same thing will need to happen in the OTT world probably. And now that I'm on this side, I'm also trying to figure like what kind of stories should we be telling. But I feel that it really depends on the creator's vision. It really depends on the writer's vision. So it's really important for the writers to be really strong right now. In fact, the directors and showrunners are actually secondary to writers and to creators who trying to figure what kind of stories to tell. So it's really interesting to be a writer in today's day and age. And the idea is, I think we writers should find like creative partnership with people who can take their stories to, you know, say whichever platform, or producers who want to create better and better content. I don't know if
And
that makes sense.
I think we say this, not arguing with you, but I think we need to nurture them, pay them better. Our writers are still underpaid. The result is they are overworked. They take on more than they can handle, and it ultimately shows in the quality that they deliver, and the quality that we then deliver to our audiences. You know, we need to nurture the basis of this entire ecosystem.
Everybody says that, but what I also hear, I don't know, I mean, from writers is that new writers don't get an opportunity. If you go back to the same writers, no wonder they overwork, because everybody wants the same writer. I'm asking you this question.
No, but that is the thing that we need to understand. What if something worked? Okay, the person who wrote the dialogues for Scam, that became risk hai to isk hai, and I don't know, all those lines. Now he suddenly become a star and one liner shop. You know, everybody says कि वैसा कुछ कर दो. I mean, it's not, you know, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes a lot of investment in that character to make him speak those lines. It's an investment. It is not something that he can do in his sleep. You know, he doesn't run a muhavra shop. You know,
That was the same in features
yeah.
also.
So and we need, that's why I need to keep him underworked. That give him, let him work on one show in a year, but he cannot sustain himself. You know, we have to sustain that
Financially.
them financially, and that support is essential.
Okay, we got 4 minutes, 45 seconds, and I would let the audience also ask questions. But before that, one or two questions had come up. People wanted to know what is the right way of pitching to a platform. Somebody here on a platform can tell us what's the right way of pitching to a platform. And what do you look for when people come and pitch to you?
So actually, there is no system in place that you should pitch in a certain way. Obviously, what we look for is a conviction in the story itself, that the person who's come to pitch to you should be convinced. He's not putting together a proposal. Another thing is, does it, if I have, as a studio, if I've done 3 crime thrillers and they're out there looking for buyers, I may not put my money in another one for that financial year at least. Then there is, of course, the what are you bringing to the table? Are you bringing an actor who is really looks the part, will play the part well? So there are myriad factors that come to this pitching stage, and then obviously it is the platform or the studio whether they have the wherewithal to do that show or not. Because many people come to us and they start off with the thing, "ये तो बहुत बड़ा project है." So then you say, okay, then maybe I'm the wrong person to take this up, you know, because they don't want to undercut. They feel we are going to undercut the budget. We never whatever it costs to make a show, we pay that out. So if they are coming, and another thing is that don't ever come with a film script and say iska serial ban sakta hai. You know, that is really there are two different ways of writing a web series and a feature film and a daily soap. They are different arts. So in the beginning, about 4 years back when we started off, we were getting film script after film script which had the potential to be a web series. And luckily we started learning from the adaptations we made, what character arcs are, how many characters play out in across 8 to 10 hours of programming. One hero can't, you know, flex his muscles and toss his belt around and hold it for 10 hours. You know? So that was a learning for us too. So I think writers and creators also have to learn from watching what are the tropes that are being used in this format now. You know, so I think that's what we look for. And basically, everybody likes a good story. I mean, there's always that happy uncle in a family gathering who has lots of stories to tell, and everybody hears them. So I think that is what we look for. The story should be good enough.
Yeah. Quick, one more question which had come from the audience. Hansal, somebody wanted to know tips for young filmmakers. And you've been just produced 2 movies. So, you know, you said, Pehla picture to sabka khwab rehta hai. So tell them, how do they get to do their first film? And you can give them tips on how to be a successful director and producer.
No. To make your first film, all my life, to be a director, to be a filmmaker, to be able to make films, you have to be a hustler. Hustle. You have to hustle your way through the system. The system does not give you free lunches, and don't expect them. Don't feel victimized because you're not entitled. Find a way to make your film. Find a way to tell your story. And work on yourself. Work on your craft. Don't work on feeling victimized. That is the key. I mean, I've survived, it's 25 years. This is the 25th year since I made my first film. And I've survived because I've hustled. I made Shahid for UTV, Spot Boy. I made City Lights for Fox Studios. I made Aligarh for Eros. Somehow got these people to cough up the money to make the films I wanted to make. And that was purely a hustle. And keep hustling, do it at an impossible budget. Do it, make the impossible possible. If you're going to do what everybody does, if you want to make a jersey in 100 crores, then the person who made jersey will be able to make it. Try to make a jalsa in 2 crores. And then you will find somebody who will want to make it. We made Aligarh at an impossible budget. That's why Eros invested in it. We sold Shahid to UTV for ₹1 crore plus, and that's why UTV bought it. It was a no-brainer. We made a good film, and we had somebody who said this is not going to cost too much. It's not going to burn our pockets, and it's also going to give us a lot of pride. So, find ways to make it. Think of ways to make it. There's a way. Especially in the digital world, the day I discovered digital, I realized I can make a film with my phone, with my DSLR. I can do that. Shahid was made on a Canon 5D, and I just, even at this time, I wanted to make a film badly. Last year, I made a film called Faraz. We made it in 23 days because I wanted to make it with new people. We made it in 23 days at an impossible budget for T-Series. So T-Series said, कि चलो, he will make a film with some big hero next year for us, ये बना देते. So I'm still hustling. I'm still hustling to tell those stories that I want to tell very badly. And that's the only tip I can give you.
Yeah, I think this, just adding to that, is also that don't go with the scale, go with the story, and that's where it is. So even as a studio, when we get theatrical, when people come and say, film ki kahani hai, but theatrical chahiye. Now that you should just leave to the studio to decide. कि वो theatrical है, digital है, whatever, कुछ बड़ा करना है. As long as the focus is again on your writing, you can push it. The passion of I want to make this needs to come out to the studio to say, I want to make this. Now you make it however, you want to put it on digital, you want to put it on, but I want to make this story because this is a story I want to tell. And that is where the passion needs to come out clearly.
One last word to Deepak, Mrinalini, Rucha and Suresh.
One thing I think everybody should remember, that this is a business. So like Hansal mentioned that you can make a film in 1 crore, you can make a film in 100 crores. You have to decide how you're going to pitch it and what chances it will have at what budget. So it is a very expensive medium. It is labor intensive, 200 people units, are not unheard of or even more. So remember that it's part of a business. So as a creator, you have to dovetail your creativity into making business sense. State has stopped sponsoring cinema now, so you can't just make what you feel like making.
I think that was a very good way to put it. At the end of the day, it is a business. I think it's a dilemma we face every day. This is for bread and butter. This is for heart. So I think I'd agree with Ashima and Deepak that just stay true to the story. Don't think of, I'm going to make this in 50 crores. I'm going to make this in 60 crores. Let's set the vision and keep hustling. I think that was the best tip I take away from this panel. I think this whole business is just about hustling. We're hustling every morning.
One thing I tell everybody, I just wanted to add, budgets fail, films don't fail.
I think he summed it up.
Okay. Last word, and we are done.
Yeah, no, I just quickly wanted to say that what Suresh was saying earlier and what Hansal was also saying earlier, don't follow trends. Try and tell your more original story. That's one of the reasons why, you have a Squid Game up there and not something from India right now. I think we are still trying to figure what are the really breaking out stories that we need to talk about. But having said that, doesn't mean that you have to constantly be looking out for concepts. I think the idea is to figure what interesting stories and what interesting worlds you want to create. That can be uniquely Indian, which can go universal, is what I feel.
I think most of it has been said, but I think when there were 3 things which were said to me while wanting to make a film was तंबू खड़ा करना है, एक स्क्रिप्ट का, एक स्टूडियो का और एक एक्टर का. तो 2 हमेशा खड़ा होते हैं, एक गिर जाता है. Then I realized actor, so I went for Vidya, straight for Sulu. Then सारे तंबू खड़े हो गए. So I get that no one is wanting to tell your story more than you. So you have all the onus. So I guess that's what I would say.
Yeah, on that note, thank you very much. And what has stayed with me is hustle, hustle and hustle. Okay, great. Bye, Hansal. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So let's have a cheers for all our panelists. So it's great to learn about the thought process of the brain that goes behind one of the most successful filmmakers and the most creative people of the industry. Thank you so much once again.